This is We the Sales Engineers Podcast, show 326.
Welcome to We the SEs Podcast, the show for sales engineers by sales engineers with your host, Ramsey Majaba.
What's up, SE Nation? Welcome back to another episode, and this is a different kind of episode, and we've never had a conversation with a person such as the person we're talking to today. My guest today is Mike Lander, and he is a former procurement director or head of procurement for a tech company. So we've never had this conversation. Now he helps salespeople work better with procurement. And the reason I wanted Mike on this podcast was because as solution engineers, we don't know anything about procurement. We don't know what happens. A lot of times we show the demo, and then we're done. We don't know what else is happening behind the scenes. And I feel like it's very important, and especially since we're sales professionals. I know we're solution engineers, but we're in the sales world. We need to know what's happening behind the scenes so that we can help, because in order for us to be able to help salespeople negotiate better with procurement, we have to build the case, which is based on technology, and as Mike will talk about, innovation. So without further ado, let's jump into the conversation with Mike. How you doing?
Hey, very good, Ramsey. How are you? Very good to meet you.
Well, likewise. We just talked for like a few minutes, so we have a bit of a read on each other. But for those who don't know who you are you and what are you doing here?
So, I'm a slightly unusual character in that I was an ex-buyer. So in big companies, I'd be the procurement person that would be buying goods and services. And so I've worked on hundreds of deals, probably worth now in excess of $500 million in my old life, of goods and services. So I was a procurement director. What I do now is I now work with salespeople to help them understand how procurement work, how to qualify deals better, how to convert more proposals into winning proposals and winning solutions, and then how to negotiate better deals when you meet difficult clients, more challenging negotiations. Typically, the situation is where a seller's dealing with a larger company. Yeah. So whereby, if they're dealing with a Fortune 100, Fortune 500, then, they are bound to have lurking somewhere professional buyers, and the deal sizes are bigger, the stakes are higher, therefore you need more professional support. So I work with sellers, giving them that support.
Nice. The reason I wanted you on is I work with a lot of SEs who, when we ask, all right, you've done the discovery, you've done the demo, you've done the proof of concept.
Yeah.
Where is the deal? It's like, oh, it's somewhere, like it's in a black hole with procurement. Right? SEs have no idea what's going on, and even some salespeople don't know what's going on with procurement.
Yep.
So maybe before we get started, you said you're a professional buyer, procurement. Can you define, what does that mean?
Sure. So in my old role, let me just talk about roughly some stuff about procurement, who they are, what they do, what they really want. The first thing to understand is, again, I'll talk about my old role when I was a buyer.
Yeah.
We are not the devil. You mustn't avoid us.
Good to know.
And we're not there to simply kill you on price. Those are all just kind of myths. Second thing is, if you look at what their priorities are in terms of what are they looking for, how are they comped, how are they motivated, how are their objectives set. If you look across there's lots of procurement surveys done each year about the Chief Procurement Officer top priorities. Every year, savings comes out as number 1, 2, or 3, typically. So savings are very important. There's a whole different podcast episode about what do savings mean, because it's not as simple as you first imagine. So savings are very important to them. Innovation, really important. Quality, reliability is almost expected. And governance and risk. And the reason I kind of focus a bit on governance and risk is procurement people have to think about risk to the organization. Is there going to be reputational risk of working with a supplier? Is there operational risk? Is there financial risk? So thinking about those things when you think about procurement people will help you engage in a conversation with them on their agenda. And the other thing is, if you look at their kind of persona, there's no generic traits, but there are themes. They tend to be rationalists, highly analytical, very well-trained negotiators, tough-minded, and emotionally detached. Does that help kind of set the scene?
Oh, that brings up a whole bunch of questions that I have. So
Yeah, let's go into the questions.
Personas, rationalist, analytic, detached.
Yeah.
You mentioned.
Yep,
And
emotionally detached.
And what was the last one?
The last one was well-trained negotiators. They are very, very well-trained negotiators.
Yeah, which is funny because I find most salespeople are not well-trained negotiators.
Correct. They are not.
So, all right. Going back to what they want: savings, innovation, quality, reliability, governance, and risk. The one thing that stands out for me here, that everything makes sense, although maybe it doesn't. I don't understand the definitions 100% yet. But innovation was not on the list of things that I thought about when it comes to procurement. What does that mean, innovation, from a procurement perspective?
So, if you imagine kind of in my old role, what I'd be doing is, let's say I'm running a big category. So let's say it's professional services in a big organization. And let's say we spend in a year $50 million. So $50 million on professional services of all sorts. That includes accountancy, legal, mainstream consultancy, the big five, big six, strategy consultancy, operational consultancy, agency services, all sorts. Yeah, so I'm buying quite a wide range of things. Included in which, so it could be professional services and technology services, yeah? So in your SE world, that would be kind of, you might fall into my category maybe, yeah?
That's
I'm
the first
designing
thought.
solutions.
Yeah.
So imagine I've got what we call a PSL, a preferred suppliers list. And on that preferred suppliers list, I've got, say, 100 suppliers. And I'm looking at this, I've just inherited the category, say. We call a category professional services, technology services is a category of spend because it's a group of spend, yeah, across many different suppliers and subcategories. Let's say I've just taken it over. I look at it and go, $50 million, 100 suppliers, and I've got 10 or 15 subcategories. Well, what I've been asked to do is, could I get more value for money out of this $50 million? That doesn't mean necessarily could I reduce the 50 million. It normally does. But it could mean, could I spend 50 million and get better outcomes? Get a better ROI?
Right.
Well, to do that, yes, I could do some consolidation. So I could give more to fewer of those suppliers. But I could also, and probably in parallel, what I could do is, I could talk to particular suppliers and go, look, we've got this big complex problem and we solve it through 6 different technology providers. Is there a way of solving that same problem in a different way using one supplier like you? Because you're an innovative supplier. And what happened then, let's say that's $2 or $3 million of spend. So it's quite a big ticket item.
Yep.
I might work collaboratively with you as a supplier. It doesn't mean you'll get the contract, but I'll work collaboratively with you, trying to work out what's the problem statement, Einstein's thing. If I had an hour to solve a problem, well, I'll spend 58 minutes, whatever it is, on understanding the problem and defining the problem. And then 3 or 5 minutes on solving it. I'd work with an agent, with a supplier on what's the problem we're trying to solve, what are the business issues wrapped around that problem, what are the outcomes that we're aiming for, how do we currently solve that problem, where are the gaps, and then work with the supplier to see if they could help me build a solution that gives better outcomes at hopefully a lower cost to serve. Then what I'd do is I'd go, we have got something I think here, which is a better solution, lower risk, less money, better outcomes. I'm going to tender this out. I'm going to write an RFP because it's $3 million to spend. I'm going to send it out to the market. You will be one of the suppliers who I send this to. Well, guess what? You've now got a material advantage in that process.
Right.
It'll be a level playing field. So I will send it out. Once the governance is in place and I send out the RFP, you don't get any preference after that at all. But you have helped me write the problem statement.
Yeah.
You've helped me design a solution that might work, and you've helped me write the RFP effectively. So
Right.
your chances of winning should be greater than 50% at that point.
Okay. This is making me curious. Generally speaking, when sales teams work with customers, procurement is kind of the last step, right?
Ooh, disaster.
Okay. So, okay, tell me more about that then.
So, follow that example through. It's $3 million to spend.
Yeah.
Imagine that a supplier is working with, let's make it easy. Let's say it's the CTO. So let's say a supplier is working with the CTO in a big company. It looks like $3 million worth of spend, product and services. The SEs have been involved, building the solution set. And at that point, no one from procurement has been anywhere near that collaboration between the CTO and the supplier. And they get to a point of going, I think we've got something here. And the CTO says, I think we have. But and we think it's broadly $3 million. Could be 2.5, could be 3.5, but it's broadly $3 million that we're going to spend on the solution. I'll just introduce you to procurement so you can get the deal sorted. Now you meet me. So Ramsey, you come to me and go, I've been told to come and see you. I've worked with the CTO, and I'd go, stop there, Ramsey. I don't want to hear what you've got to say next. Let me go and talk to the CTO. I'll be back. Go and talk to the CTO. We have a discussion which could be heated around $3 million of spend on a solution that I think we've already got providers for, with a new vendor that we don't know anything about at all, and it would have to go through an RFP. I'm not even sure if we need... I'm not even sure if there's a business need that we can justify going out to market for. I then don't come back to you at all, because the CTO doesn't really have either the money or budget in this quarter, or has realised, actually, we could probably use 2 or 3 of the existing suppliers, solve the problem in a very similar way, and just give them a bit more spend. And you never hear from me ever again. You've just wasted 6 months of your sales cycle.
Well, actually, the question I was leading up to, which you kind of alluded to, is the relationship, because we work with the users, the CTO. What is the relationship between the procurement and the CTO? And you kind of mentioned it might get heated. So, because the CTO really wants something.
Yeah.
And then...
Let me give you an example.
Yeah, please.
Let me give you an example. Many years ago, I used to work in big banks. So I've worked in quite a few big banks with their technology teams and their procurement teams. It is not uncommon for the technology team. Let's say a bank spending, I don't know, $1 billion a year on technology. Yeah, hardware and software and solutions, etc. Technology is a very technical thing to buy.
Yep.
It's a really hard thing to understand. Yep. Understandably, the technology teams inside banks and inside all sorts of big brands often say to procurement, I get that you need to run the governance process for this, but the idea that you're going to understand the intricacies of what I need to buy is frankly a bit ludicrous. So when I'm ready to run the process, I'll come and see you. But you're running the process, not deciding who gets appointed. That's not an uncommon scenario.
Okay.
Now, ideally what you want is a category procurement person who's come from technology that really understands tech and is now in a position whereby they're running the process and adding value to the tech team because they truly understand the nature of what is being bought. That is less common.
Yes. I can tell you a lot of times our own customers don't understand the technology we're trying to provide to them.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So what chance do procurement stand? Yeah.
Yeah.
Precisely.
So it sounds like the sales team should get the procurement involved, or at least ask the customer, the CTO in this example, to get procurement involved early on in the sales cycle.
Now, ideally, way before. So let's follow the example through. Let's say you'd met a CTO at a conference.
Yeah.
And you had a conversation very early doors, and they just presented about the transformation they were going through as a retailer, about how they're going to use AI-enabled technology infrastructure and how it will transform both their physical infrastructure and their software infrastructure in the next 10 years. And they'd given this keynote speech. And you talked to them afterwards and said, that's very interesting. How are you doing that? What issues are you facing? We work with similar clients on similar issues. We've done 10 of these before. And the CTO says, that's very interesting, Ramsey. We haven't got a budget yet, but come and talk to me.
Yeah.
So you're probably a year away from a deal being signed in that scenario, because it's a big ticket item.
Yeah.
At that point, when you go and meet the CTO and have a conversation, at the end of that first conversation, so you've qualified that person in, and maybe you're the SE and you've gone with the salesperson and you've talked about the technical aspects because it's a CTO, so they understand the deep technology.
Yep.
You've talked about that. At the end of the conversation, obviously the key thing is, well, we need to get the next meeting. Salesperson's job is get the next meeting. Great.
Yep.
So you agree with the CTO what the next step is, and it turns into a meeting with his next level or her next level of reports to think about the next layer of detail. At the same time, you should ask the question, could you introduce us just to the procurement lead who would work on this one day in the future? If it were to be a project and it were to turn into an RFP, we'd like to talk to the procurement lead now just to understand who do they currently use, how do they select suppliers, what kind of vetting process goes on, what's the roadmap in that particular category for technology suppliers. It'd be great just to have an early doors conversation. We just want half an hour with procurement. Very happy CTO if you're there, but if not, we'll do it on our own. But we want to start building a relationship with procurement because we know that if this turns into an opportunity with a budget, it will absolutely go through procurement.
Yeah. What I'm hearing is, and I mean this with the utmost respect, but procurement might be the biggest obstacle for any sales process.
They could well be, correct.
Yeah.
If you get it wrong on big ticket items and you fail to recognize that they're the ones that run the process, they're in charge of governance, they're the ones that vet suppliers, you cannot get onto the preferred suppliers list unless procurement have vetted you. They're the ones that organize for purchase orders to be raised. So ignoring them as a stakeholder group is foolish for big deals.
Yeah, I feel a lot of people ignore them because they're afraid of them.
They're afraid of them. They're frightened of them.
We'll handle that when, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Correct.
But what it sounds like you're saying is, even if they're, generally speaking, salespeople want a kind of a firm deal to say, all right, it's time to talk to procurement. But you're saying they should be part of the early stages of the conversations.
Because
the earlier,
Ramsey,
the better.
How many of those firm deals that salespeople say it's in the bag, how many of those firm deals actually turn into $10 million contracts that are signed?
Not many.
Yeah.
Not many.
Because they've forgotten procurement.
Yeah. And not only that, how many of them that we need this quarter slip into next quarter?
Correct. They all get pushed out because it's not that they'd even forgotten procurement. They'd avoided procurement.
Yeah.
And it's, go back to that first kind of few points I made. We're not the devil. You shouldn't hide your head in the sand. We're not there merely to beat you up on price. But if you're going to engage us on our agenda, not the technologist's agenda, and talk about things like risk and understand the technology roadmap, where they're going, the category roadmap in this case, and talk about how you become an approved vendor. How does that even work?
It sounds like for each one sales cycle, there's actually two. Yeah. One with the technologists and the people who need to use the product, and one who's actually going to pay for it. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the one who's going to run the process. Remember, it's the CTO's budget.
Right. Yeah.
But procurement have a big say in who gets appointed.
Okay. And you mentioned, so I always thought governance was part of the buyers, not the procurement, but the CTO's process, and they should take care of that. But it sounds like it's like you're a backup to them, right? You have to do your own diligence.
So there's two governance processes going on in parallel. One is technology governance, about how do we integrate a new supplier into our technology environment behind our firewall. And that's all sorts of things. There's data governance, there's security governance, there's all sorts of governance around the solution and how it's deployed and how it's managed. The second piece of governance is how do we govern suppliers?
Right.
How do we control the supply base and ensure that we've got suppliers that are ethical, suppliers where they have a supply chain, that have the supply chain vetted, suppliers that are financially stable and can demonstrate on a quarterly basis they remain financially stable, that have a good reputation in the marketplace, that won't damage our reputation. So you've got two governance processes going on at the same time. It's a good point. I hadn't thought about it in that way, but with SEs in particular in your audience, there will be two governance processes going on at the same time.
Okay. That's very good to know. And you mentioned savings and savings. I had so many questions about savings, and you immediately said it can have its own podcast. So I don't think we have time for its own podcast.
No, but let me give you three. Let me give you just like some real headlines, because I'm conscious of your time as well on the show, and value to the listeners. Most importantly, there are three types of savings. There's a true cost saving, there's cost avoidance, and there's what we call value add. Three buckets of savings.
Okay.
True cost savings are, I bought this last year, I'm buying it this year, I'm paying less, in really simple terms. Yeah?
Right.
It's a true saving, like for like. Yeah. Cost avoidance is, you say to me, the solution's $5 million, that's the list price. I get you down to $4 million. I've saved $1 million. Well, no, I've avoided paying $1 million extra, which wasn't a real price in the first place, and I haven't bought it before.
Yeah.
Third bucket, value add, is you offer me some free training. I'm like, right, okay, that's part of the deal. Fine. I didn't ask for it. We might be able to use it. It's nice of you to offer it. Thanks. That's a value-added component. So,
like, the way you're talking about it sounds like savings is like, no matter what they offer you, it's not good. Did I get that impression correctly?
Well, you have to face the savings conversation. Yeah. As an SE, as a salesperson, you have to talk about the savings. If you don't understand the total cost of ownership for a client's perspective, and you can't demonstrate the value that's going to create, don't be surprised if they treat you as a commodity. A big trap for suppliers is this. It's not my job to explain to you how value is created from your solution. If you can't explain to me a value waterfall of how, when I buy this product and service, we're going to get $10 million of value from a $1 million investment, if you can't do that, I will treat you as a commodity. How do I buy commodities? I beat you up on price. I compare you to the market with other suppliers. It's a race to the bottom. I spend no time on the relationship. I don't care about you and your business because it's a true commodity.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Mainly because I've worked with many salespeople who just give discounts.
Right.
So, but
why
are we giving this discount? Well, we're giving this discount because they compared us to those guys. Like, yeah, but those guys can't do
correct
this,
what we can do.
Which is the most important thing for the CTO.
Correct.
So why are you not bringing that up? So if you can, you'll get it. Like if the salesperson doesn't bring it up, you're not going to ask for it. You're just going to beat them up on price.
So let me follow that thread through because it's a fascinating thread. So this wouldn't be you, Ramsey, but let's say it's Ramsey's 20-year ago persona, and you were the salesperson and the SE all in one on a job, on an opportunity. And it was a $5 million opportunity, biggest thing you've ever worked on, $5 million. And I'm the procurement lead, and I say, it's interesting, Ramsey, look, we're going to go into a process. I've talked to some other suppliers. You've said $5 million. I know the market price is 3. I know it is. I'll talk to you later. Bye. You come back and go, Mike, you won't believe it. We can do it for $2.8 million. Really, Ramsey? So in my head, I'm going, he's just given me $2.2 million of discount. So first of all, he was lying to me. He's inflated his price in the first place. Secondly, probably doesn't understand the marketplace at all. Thirdly, he's very willing to give 2.2 million off. So his bottom kind of like BATNA, his walkaway point, 1.5, maybe. I'll keep him in the running because I might use him as a stalking horse in a real true bid process to get the price down for my other suppliers that I probably will want to work with. How does that sound?
It sounds about right, and that's the problem that I have with a lot of salespeople that I've worked with as an SE.
They're obsessed by discounting. Don't discount. Never discount.
So from management perspective, actually I have a question about never discount. From a management perspective, we'd give a price to our customers. And then it's the end of the quarter and we tell our customers like this is the best price we can give you.
Yeah.
But then management comes in and it's like, do whatever it takes to sell. So what does that mean? Well, give them extra discounts. Well, we just told them that that's the best price.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we don't care. We need to close the deal. So I go back to the customers like, yeah, somehow we found a way to do this for you. And they're like, all right, we want more.
Correct.
So,
and not only do I want more, I want more, and I'll get you to the very end of the quarter, the last 3 days of the quarter. You're desperate for this deal. You keep on going down and down and down and down and down. And you've now gone from 5 to 2.8, down to 2, down to 1.5, down to 1. So I've now got your shirt, I've got your trousers, I've got your shoes, your socks, you're standing virtually naked. And then at the last minute I go, we're not going to do it this quarter. But thanks, I'll lock in that price and come back to you next month. And you go, no, it's only valid for the end of quarter. It expires tomorrow. Really, Ramsey? It expires tomorrow. Okay, thanks. We'll see. I come back to you day one of quarter two. Hi, it's me again. You know that $1 million deal? Still on the table, I assume. Well, it was a quarter deal. Yeah, I know all those words, Ramsey. I understand what you're saying. I'm interested at the same price, the same spec, higher quality. If you want to talk to me, that's great. If you don't, I understand. I've got others waiting. Time expiring offers don't work because the buyer knows they're not time expiring unless you're a very, very rare supplier that truly has more demand than you can cope with. And I am desperate for the value that you're going to create in this quarter. Right. If you're selling bananas, they do expire because bananas go rotten.
Yep. Yep. Oh, that's so much fun. So, as SEs, we don't talk about pricing, but we talked about savings and like the 3 different ways of saving. From an SE perspective, when we talk to the CTO or the users, we're trying to create value around what they want.
Yeah.
Like the value could be you don't have to work so many hours of overtime.
Could be efficiency. Yeah.
But does procurement care about overtime? Like, are you measured on how much overtime you're saving the company?
So I talked before about the value buckets, the kind of the classic kind of value waterfall where you put buckets together and it ends up in a big number. The job of the SE and salesperson, in my view, should be to create that value waterfall, which has different categories. Some of them are hard savings. If it's hardware, because of the scale of the solution and the type of technology and the underlying, the chipset we're using and all the rest of it, we can get you a lower cost product. That's a true hard cost saving if it's like for like. Yep. But then you might have one around, there's time efficiency. So we can save you 1,000 hours a month if you adopt this solution. And we know that the average cost of an hour to you as an organization is X. The cost might be, $35. So we can save you $35 a month in time. Now, as procurement, I'm going to sit there and go, Well, it's good that you've built this ladder. So that's a tick in the box, definitely. Efficiency savings are important to us as an organization, but obviously price is something that's very tangible. So the hard cost reduction is great. The efficiency savings are interesting, but I need to go and validate that with my other stakeholders internally and see if it's real. Because again, we must remember that efficiency savings, 1,000 hours saved, that doesn't reduce my cost. That's just I've got now 1,000 person hours of time in a month to do something else with as a business. So I talk to the business stakeholder and go, what can you do with those 1,000 hours to create more value for us as a business? And if they say, nothing at all, Mike, it wouldn't work that way, I come back to you and go, nice try, but for these reasons, those efficiency savings aren't there. Try again.
Okay. So that was going to be my first question. Like, when I've been in meetings where a salesperson would give, an ROI of 60%, and I look at my customers and the users don't believe him or her. So the question, if a salesperson gives you the waterfall, do you even believe them?
So I start to inspect it. The waterfall's essential. So it's one of those necessary but not sufficient. If you give me the waterfall diagram on a page, you've now opened up a discussion with me. So the important thing now is, do you have the understanding and the experience to talk me through how the waterfall's created, the assumptions behind each of the buckets, and how it translates into my organization? So if you've managed to get to that level, you're not a trusted advisor yet, but you're getting into a consultative selling process. And that's really important. So there was a brilliant... Did you ever read the book, The Challenger Sale, by Matt Dixon? Yeah? Matt Dixon, and who was the other really clever chap? Brent. I think Brent Adamson is his name. That talks about, you've got to challenge your client's thinking. You've got to act as the trusted advisor. It's about that, is that you're trying to get to the position whereby you're really credible as a salesperson and an SE, because you've managed to translate this waterfall into my environment, and now we're going to test if it works.
So, like, as an SE, I find it's my job to not tell my customer what the waterfall is, but to build it with them.
Correct.
Like,
you're going to collaborate.
Let's build, I'm going to do this. We're going to do this. How much is that going to save you from here? Versus me telling, because I've seen a lot of people do we're going to do this, and that's going to save you 6 hours of time. And then they look at me and say, no, it's not.
Correct.
We're going to have to do all this other stuff. So
However,
if we build
flip the language for a second. Imagine we're at the early part of the sales cycle and you're in the meeting with the salesperson, and we're at the very early stages. And let's say you've managed to get procurement and the CTO in the room at the same time, and you're at the early part. Yeah. So you don't have any data yet about their environment and their time savings. No. If you showed me one page with a waterfall diagram on it and said these simple words, what we find in situations like yours with other customers we've worked with is that the value creation looks something like this. These are the buckets, and this is the kind of scale, the quantum in each bucket. And broadly what we find is, we find typically the ROI for an organization of your kind of scale in your kind of industry, broadly it looks like it's about 6 to 1.
Right.
Let's just talk through the waterfall diagram. Do you recognize any of these buckets? What would it look like for you? You start to get their fingerprints on your waterfall diagram that engages their minds in a conversation around, even if this is half true for us, that's still 3 or 4 to 1 of value. That's interesting. Just by saying what we find rather than this is what you'll achieve.
So can I share a secret with you?
Always.
I'm
loving this, by the way. This is a great conversation.
I appreciate that. I'm enjoying it as well. So I've been in sales as an SE and a salesperson for the last 10 years.
Right.
And this is the first time I hear the term waterfall.
Right.
And even the customers, I haven't worked with anyone who talks about waterfall. So I'm really appreciating this chat, because now I'm learning something new.
Yeah, pleasure.
So I think we need to figure out, like, from an SE perspective, we need to understand a little bit more about what a waterfall is.
Yeah.
Now, in the early stages of discovery, meeting with customers, I am not offering any solutions, or I'm not telling them how much it would save. I'm just trying to understand the problem.
Correct. You're in discovery mode. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm understanding procurement would be part of discovery calls. Is that?
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
Now, on the discovery, Ramsey, just to pause for a second, a common mistake I find with SEs, and I was an engineer. Remember before the conversation, I started life as an engineer working with salespeople. Engineers, in my experience, I would ask what I thought were interesting questions because they're on my mind, because they're interesting technical questions. What I hadn't worked out was I hadn't started with the end in mind and worked backwards. So when you start the discovery
100%.
process, I would say you have a waterfall hypothesis, and then you ask questions to validate or not the assumptions you've made for each bucket in the waterfall.
Yep. 100%. And well, so when we meet customers, the first thing we need to understand is why they actually want to meet us. Nobody wants to meet with salespeople. The same way salespeople don't want to meet with procurement.
Yeah, exactly.
So, because, salespeople have a bad reputation, if you can imagine. So, trying to understand that, but like now in my head it's formulated. Like, all right, this is how we help other customers. Like these are the stories. Like we don't use the term waterfall. We just tell stories about how we've helped other customers. You're the procurement being analytical is talking about. You don't care about stories. You want to know. Give me the numbers. So it's interesting talking to you to see the different perspective.
I mean, the story's all very interesting, but very quickly I'd go, yeah, that's all fine. Now then, I've only got 10 minutes.
Well, that's the difference between like the procurement and the users, because the user I can tell them like, hey, this is a day in your life. We're changing your life right now, and
we used to call them dialogues.
Look at him as,
a day in the life of.
Yeah, and procurement will look at me. He's like, what are you talking about? Just tell me the number. So how do you manage talking to two different set of peoples? One that might be emotional because they're actually having a problem.
Yep.
And one that's not emotional and very analytical.
So, let's say we're at the earliest part of the sales cycle. We've brought procurement in, and we're having our kind of. You've had a meeting with the CTO. That's gone well. The next one is you've got to follow up with her direct reports around starting to think about in a discovery call or discovery sessions what's the current situation, what's the future state, and how do you get there in between. So you've put that kind of like session next. In parallel, you've met with procurement separately. My advice is you meet with the CTO, you book the meeting with their direct reports to book that solution design discovery session. In parallel, you book a meeting with procurement. Don't bring procurement into that solution design session with her direct reports, because to your point, they'll be bored. They'll be like, this is a 2-hour discovery session. It's got nothing to do with me. You've just really irritated procurement. Have a separate meeting with them, short, 20 minutes, because genuinely they are running across multiple supplier negotiations. 20 minutes, introductory call, explain who you are, what you do, why you've got a discovery session booked with the CTO's direct reports. Is there any problems that you can foresee with at least having the discovery call? And then if we report back to you the summary of where we got to, would that be helpful? They'll probably say, that's fine. It's 20 minutes.
Yeah. So the thought that's popping in my head is the SE and the salesperson meet with the CTO, and they kind of split up, where the sales goes talks to procurement, and the SE does the technical discovery with the
Correct.
thing. And that's an excuse. Like, oh, the only the technical folks are doing the technical discovery.
Exactly.
You don't need to be part of that.
Yeah.
And okay.
And then the important thing is, I always think it's like being, it's a bit like being an orchestra conductor. Your job as the sales lead really should be to orchestrate all of the players, which are both sides, you and the customer, and get alignment so that when they play the national anthem, it's in tune.
Yeah. And something else I wanted to point out, you mentioned that procurement is running various sales cycles with various vendors.
Yeah,
I wanted to point out that the CTO is probably running various sales
correct.
Cycles with various vendors for that one problem.
Yeah,
The procurement is running for every other problem in the company. So that I just wanted to show the difference in scale and
absolutely.
Like why you'd be busy. So
at any one
why
time,
you'd be irritated with people.
Yeah, I mean, at any one time I was working on 10 different deals, which could be at the early stage of discovery with our internal stakeholders. They could be at the RFP being issued stage. They could be at the evaluation stage, or they could be at the negotiation stage. And I'm running a savings pipeline, and I'm trying to keep all of these people aligned and happy and making progress on all these deals. You're spinning a lot of plates.
So you've based on that, you've worked with a lot of different salespeople.
Yeah.
The good ones, like what made them good in your mind? What did they come with to you?
That's a great question. There's obviously many traits, but people that I work with now, the salespeople that I work with now, there's a few common traits if I bring them out, and I'll just think about them off the top of my head. One is they're very open to learning. The best sales leaders, the best sales people that I've met, very inquiring mind, very open to learning. Doing this, having a discussion, learning new things from each other. That's number one. Secondly, they're very good at professional relationship building, but they're not what I call the gin and tonic brigade. The gin and tonic brigade is salesperson thinks, well, I'll just keep on loving my customers to death and my prospects to death, and we'll go out for drinks and dinner and lunches and breakfast and goodness knows what. It's like, right, okay, that's all fine, but do you really think that's going to convert the deal? 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the way that big deals were sold was quite different. Now, because of all sorts of dynamics, buyers, they reckon out of the 11 touch points before you get to a salesperson, that's all about thought leadership and about listening to podcasts and seeing people on YouTube and gathering information. It's much more transparent out there. It's much easier to understand what's going on. So the relationship building I'm talking about is the ability to add value to your counterparty in each intervention, which moves their thinking forward and tells them things they didn't know before. So they're all excellent at that. Third one would be internal collaboration. Very good at understanding when and who to call in to move the sale onto the next part of the cycle.
Okay. A lot of these are like things done by SEs.
Right.
The internal collaboration, like from what I've seen, maybe some salespeople know exactly who to bring in, but a lot of salespeople go to the SE and say, "Who should we bring in for this?" A lot of salespeople bypass the SE completely and never bring them onto a deal because they go to different places and get the right people. So,
and the problem with that is the SE should be. I think the SE is a great salesperson would be working with the SE, going, "This is the customer problem. This is our solution set. How do we configure this to have the next conversation, and who should we bring in that's got the current knowledge?" I think that's a great use of an SE, is to act as the aggregator of inputs, but avoiding the SE, going directly to the subject matter experts and building your own solution. I mean, I have seen sales leaders trying to build their own solution. It works sometimes, but it normally ends in utter disaster at some point in the sales chain.
Yeah, so that sounds about right. And adding value, that's something SEs can do in a great way, especially enterprise SEs when it's like those 5 million deals, because they get to build the relationships with the internal stakeholders. They get to learn information that the salesperson will never learn. Exactly. And then they can feed that to the salesperson, who can then share that with the procurement person to actually understand the value of the product. I just find a lot of people don't do it.
The SE's working with the head of infrastructure, the head of compliance and security, the head of data centers. They're working on the technical aspects of the solution at a very deep level. They've built massive trust with stakeholders who are either technical buyers or are influencers in the decision-making process. They're massively valuable. Salespeople should treat them the same as they get treated. They should be highly valued parts of the solution sale.
The good ones.
The good ones.
Same as salespeople.
Yeah, exactly.
The big difference between good SEs and bad salespeople and bad SEs, it's harder to find out who's a bad SE. A bad salesperson, you didn't hit quota, you're out.
Yeah.
A bad SE can blame the salesperson, although a lot of salespeople blame their SEs for not doing the right demo or whatever. Okay. I mean, we could talk for hours.
We could.
If people wanted to learn more about the waterfall, is there a resource they can go check, or about procurement in general?
So I think, procurement in general, you contact me on LinkedIn. So I'm on LinkedIn. I'm always commenting and posting. So I'm on LinkedIn, Mike Lander on LinkedIn. You should be able to find me. You can look at our site, piscari.com. There's some articles on there that you could look at. On waterfall technique, it's a well-trodden path by consultancies especially. So if you just type in fact, if I just type in now, waterfall technique explained. Yeah, so you've got obviously GPT will give you a very comprehensive version. Lots of other consultancies on here. Forbes has got articles on it, all sorts. There's the waterfall development methodology. There's the waterfall value methodology. There's all sorts. If anyone's interested to talk to a procurement person about what I mean by waterfall, just get in contact via LinkedIn, and I'll explain what I think about when I talk about the value waterfall that I am looking for and the buckets that need creating.
Okay. Do you have an article on that yet?
I don't. No, but I might write one.
Okay. And could you repeat your website?
Yeah, sure. So it's Piscari, P for Peter, ISCARI.com. Piscari.com.
Piscari.com. Does Piscari mean anything? Because that's not your last name.
It's not. It was actually the brand was developed by my wife, who's an ex-CMO for tech companies, and it's about to teach to fish. I believe my role in life is to help others to help themselves.
Nice. That's I like that. All right, well, we're at the end of our show, Mike. Was there a question you were hoping I was going to ask, but I didn't?
No. I mean, I think it was a conversation. I didn't know exactly where it was going to go. We had a few prompts. We've gone down some rabbit warrens. What it has done is it's reminded me of being an SE back in the day. And if only I'd have listened to this podcast when I was an SE, if it was available back then I'd have probably been a better SE, I think.
Oh, well, that's the way I started it, so I can be a better SE, but I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, again, we can talk about negotiation. There's many things we can talk about, but we don't have time to go down another rabbit hole for right now.
Correct.
So I really appreciate your time. I'm going to leave you with a final thoughts or final words that you want to share with the audience.
Don't avoid procurement. Embrace them. We're not the devil. We're just another stakeholder. But we are tough-minded. Bear in mind that we're tough-minded, busy individuals. So engage us on our agenda, not on a sales agenda.
Oof, that's another topic that we can discuss. All right, we'll leave it there. Mike, so thank you so much for your time. And
Ramsey, I've loved it. I've genuinely really enjoyed this. It's been a great conversation. Thank you.
Likewise, thank you. And that's the end of the show. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for being here. I hope you're enjoying this new season. And if you have any topics you want to talk about, let me know. If you need help, let me know. I am here. With that, I'm signing off.